Move with the grooves, move like that, and now we move with the grooves, move like that.
Grand Theft Auto games are known for four things: high sales, great gameplay, story, and an extremely long history of the controversies. Nearly everyone you might know, your parents, your neighbors, and certainly most of your friends you grew up with, know what the GTA initials mean. The Grand Theft Auto series, published by Rockstar Games and developed by ZDEyE, are one of the most famous video games series of all time, awarded as the fourth best-selling video game series just behind Pokemon, Mario, and Tetris. For those who have not played the games before, obviously the GTA gameplay focuses on an open world, and one of the series' main selling points where the player chooses missions to progress in the story, but can also engage in the several side activities. All of the games focus on the main characters that strive for rising in the ranks of the criminal underworld, which is why some have cited in the game's controversies. If you've seen most of the videos on my channel, you might know that I'm a very big fan of the Grand Theft Auto games, and you can see some of my reviews of the individual games links down below in the description and also pinned in the comment. This time around, I wanted to rank each Grand Theft Auto game I've played from worst to best. Each game definitely has its own charm and unique feature that makes it special on its own, but the best Grand Theft Auto games have a combination of great gameplay, compelling story, characters, scripting, voice acting, graphics, and just so many things that makes it stand out from the others in the same gaming series. I will only place the games I have played and reviewed before too, and it's not very fair for me to rank games on which I have no experience on. So I will not be adding Grand Theft Auto 1, Grand Theft Auto London 1969, Grand Theft Auto London 1961, Grand Theft Auto Advance, Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories, Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars to the list, and will only rank those I did not mention. So, without further explanation, I will begin my ranking of the best Grand Theft Auto games in the history from worst to best. What in my personal opinion is the winner for the worst Grand Theft Auto game ever awarded is the Grand Theft Auto 2. First, released in 1999, the game is set its gameplay in a future city, anywhere city. Grand Theft Auto 2 is set in 1999, played from a top-down perspective, and its world is navigated on foot or by vehicle. In Grand Theft Auto 2, anywhere city is split into 3 levels or districts: downtown, the residential district, and the industrial district. The city is composed by 7 fictional criminal gangs named after real-life gangs. Now, the game was released for both Microsoft Windows and the PlayStation, afterwards released in 2000 for the Dreamcast and a Game Boy Color. While I do have to admit that the diverse gangs, each with their own behavior, cars and characteristics, was very interesting a part of the game. What I just did not like at all, and the main reason why I ranked it at the spot, is to be top-down perspective of the Grand Theft Auto 2. This version features 4 multiplayer modes which become classic staples of the Grand Theft Auto Deathmatch, Team Deathmatch, Tag, and Race. Considering all the following games feature a third-person perspective, that makes the experience more immersive. The top-down perspective is a bit awkward for the players, in my opinion, kind of ruins what would be the very interesting story featuring all the different districts and the gangs. Moving on to the next place, the second spot would be Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. This is one of the only handheld Grand Theft Auto games I had on my PSP, and I do remember great things from playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. In the Vice City Stories, Rockstar revisits the Vice City location on the PSP, taking place 2 years prior to the events of the Grand Theft Auto Vice City. being released after the Liberty City stories. It featured many welcome technical improvements over it, such as the better frame rate and more detail paid to aspects of the game, such as the characters and the vehicle models. You can pilot the helicopter, and the frame rate was very solid while doing it so. There's just a general feeling of a more detailed game on this one compared to its predecessors. Also, piloting the choppers was made much easier in the Vice City stories, so the gameplay experience was definitely smoother in this one. The driving physics system was very responsive and has the characteristics of the Grand Theft Auto as it can be, extremely unrealistic and fun at the same time. Now, although it did feature game modes, it was kind of the same Liberty City stories mechanics, only with a better gameplay. Good for messing around and having fun, but I would not place it on the best game list when there are other better options with more engaging storyline. On the next place of my ranking, I decided to place Grand Theft Auto 3, my first Grand Theft Auto game ever. Thinking of it brings back a lot of the nostalgia, reminiscing of the cheat codes I used to have fun with. Grand Theft Auto 3 was released in 2001. Grand Theft Auto 3 brings back Liberty City, but this time it's only slightly based on the New York. The Vice City and the San Andreas games will bring their respective cities of the first game back, but this time they can take the form of the entire state. This time, San Andreas takes form of the California and Nevada, consisting of the three major cities Los Santos, San Fierro, and Las Venturas. The similarity of the names should make this obvious, but they are based in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Las Vegas respectively. Grand Theft Auto 3 follows the story of Claude, a criminal left for dead who then, as expected from the Grand Theft Auto game, becomes involved in a world of gangs and crime. This time the game is played from the third-person point of view. It broke records of being the best-selling video game of 2001 bar none, that even one of the most significant games of the sixth generation of video games. It won several awards from different gaming publications. The story starts with the main character shot and betrayed by Catalina, his girlfriend, and then is arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison. The reason why this game was so groundbreaking is because of its first 3D game in the series, with freedom and a diversity being its main focus. Grand Theft Auto Vice City is set to take place in the Grand Theft Auto version of the Miami, the iconic Vice City. Now, Vice City presents an exaggerated version of the 1980s decade, using several pop culture stereotypes and basing itself on films such as The Scarface. Most of its iconic Grand Theft Auto humor comes from the radio, and it also includes a comic relief characters based on the parodies of real-life personalities. The Vice City cast is probably one of the most memorable and colorful crew of characters ever placed in a Grand Theft Auto game, even from the kingpins to the civilians. Vice City featured new player actions, such as the crouching, which allows more stealth-based actions such as the hiding behind the objects, and also dives out of the moving cars. Compared to the Grand Theft Auto 3, the driving is much more exciting and dangerous, and there's going to be a lot of the car flipping and explosions with loose cars when playing or replaying in the Vice City. This game surely brings a lot of nostalgia for me, especially remembering the cheat codes and the fun of blowing up cars and diving out of time of the explosion car set to crash into the ocean. The next place on my ranking is occupied by Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Now, I know many of you would not agree with my choice here, but as I have mentioned, that this is my list. Since Grand Theft Auto San Andreas was released back in 2004 as the first main entry game since Grand Theft Auto Vice City, this time around the story follows Carl Johnson, also known as the CJ, as the ex-gangbanger who returns to Los Santos after his mother's murder, and we'll get to the bottom of the mystery behind his mother's murder. While I wouldn't say the story was exactly great, the messing around and shooting people with cheat codes was one of the best things I remember from playing San Andreas. In fact, the freedom that features Grand Theft Auto games is one of the best things I like about all of them in general. You can just play around and do whatever you want, and it's just the best exemplifies in the San Andreas. I just feel of an incredible nostalgia when thinking back on this game. Grand Theft Auto 4: The Lost and the Damned. Now, The Lost and the Damned is the first expansion pack of the two released for the Grand Theft Auto 4. It takes place in a Liberty City in the same time frame as Niko Bellic's story in the Grand Theft Auto 4, although the main characters are treated completely different. I would certainly say that the gameplay in The Lost and the Damned is much better than in the Grand Theft Auto 4, and the weapons are also much cooler. You will play as John Klebitz, aka the Jew. Klebitz is the vice president of the bike gangs named The Lost, and has been acting as its leader ever since the president of the club, Billy, was sent to rehab. Nevertheless, the story kicks off right when Billy comes back from the rehab to take the reins of the club, while Klebitz has one of the other plans for its club to handle their business. It was a short campaign, and I would certainly say that the Johnny's not the most likable of the characters to be repertoired of the Grand Theft Auto main characters. I would say that the story is the weakest point for this expansion pack, as pairing it up with a strange subplot such as the Ashley, who acts as Johnny's love interest, and also Billy's and Johnny's feud regarding the gang, along with the Johnny being despicable character even by Grand Theft Auto standards. It can be a bit unbearable sometimes. Despite these weaker points, as I mentioned earlier, the gameplay is a very important upgrade from the Grand Theft Auto 4, featuring a biker gang as its leader as one of the main characters. Of course, The Lost and the Damned has amazing upgraded mechanics with the motorcycles. The physics were also upgraded, making it one of the funniest things to do in the game. There are also new weapons, and being different character from Niko, Johnny can call up biker gang members and help you fight, in even increasing their experience. If one of your members dies, they are replaced with a new member, although with no experience, which forces you to play your cards smartly and trying to keep your members alive as long as possible. Grand Theft Auto 4: The Ballad of Gay Tony. Now, The Ballad of Gay Tony serves as another expansion pack for the Grand Theft Auto 4 game, being a $20 downloadable episode. Now, in this game, you would take on the role of the Luis Lopez, bodyguard of the title character Tony Prince. Unlike the mainline games where the characters usually start in rags and hopefully end up in riches, this story already places Tony Prince in the richest category, as he owns the biggest gay and straight nightclubs in the Liberty City. This expansion pack has many entertaining cutscenes. The main problem I see at the story level is that Luis, the point of the view character, is a bit of the uninteresting character, but the surrounding character, mainly Tony Prince, are very colorful and make the story more compelling. Most of the missions focused mostly on the problems of the gay Tony and his history with the mafia and beginning of his nightclub's business. What makes this so memorable is how over the top some of the missions are, as there are jobs for most of the crazier people in the city, such as the Yusuf Amir and mobster Bulgarin, who's obsessed with owning a Liberty City's hockey's team. Now, the fact that you take missions from both crazy and crazy rich characters makes them absolutely great, and that also including the weapon gameplay. You can also even manage the Masonette 9, one of the Tony's nightclubs in the minigame, where you can even throw out a drunk party goes in the club. There are also options managing Tony's gay club, Hercules. All in all, I would review this game as the perfect way to finish the Grand Theft Auto 4 storyline with a bang. In my opinion, Grand Theft Auto 5 was a brilliant game and one of the best of all time. Grand Theft Auto 5 marked a before and after the histories of the video games. with sky-high sales that reached up to $1 billion on the first day alone. It's not surprising that Grand Theft Auto 5 serves as the cornerstone of the amazing Grand Theft Auto games. As of 2019, Grand Theft Auto 5 has 90 million copies and revenue of $6 billion, based once more on a San Andreas. This time the game follows the three criminals who have performed their crimes while under pressure from the powerful crime figures and the government. It also features a wanted system which determines the aggression of the police and the law enforcement towards the player who committed crimes, and also an online multiplayer mode, Grand Theft Auto Online. Now, the game is probably one of the most anticipated video games in history, which broke hit industry sales by becoming the fastest selling entertainment product in the history by Grand Theft Auto 5. It already had been turned into a trend, the fact that the game sells out within the minutes, and also featuring controversies due to depiction of the violence and other topics. It won the third best-selling video game of all time, with over 120 million copies shipped and earning around $6 billion in worldwide revenue. For those of us who were long-time Grand Theft Auto fans, the release of the Grand Theft Auto 5 was a definitive before and after in the history of the video games. We can expect that with so many things to do in the Grand Theft Auto, being an open world and all, the game do involve high production cost, and Grand Theft Auto 5 is the poster child of this. Grand Theft Auto 5 reportedly cost around $137 million to be just created, even higher than some of the blockbuster movies or other types of media. We all know that with the fame and the success of these games though, it's not as such as the insane investment when the games can make the double of the amount in the first week of the release. Now, of course, you can watch all my full review for the Grand Theft Auto 5, links down below in the description or pinned down in the comment as well. In my opinion, Grand Theft Auto 4 has been my favorite game of all time. Released back in 2008, Grand Theft Auto 4 follows the story of the Niko Bellic, a war veteran who goes to Liberty City to live with cousin Roman Bellic, looking to find a man who betrayed his military unit. Niko becomes involved in a world of violence, crime and corruption that characterizes the series, earns work and payment and works hard to remain alive, while also avoiding pressure from loan sharks and other mob bosses. As of 2019, Grand Theft Auto 4 has sold over 25 million copies and remains the best-selling PlayStation 3 game of all time. Grand Theft Auto in general has always been known for its quality voice acting, but Grand Theft Auto 4 brought the house down with its stellar scripted dialogue and voice acting over the 80,000 lines, breaking world records when it came out. Liberty City truly comes alive in the Grand Theft Auto 4, making it more convincing than previous Grand Theft Auto settlements. Being based in New York, it has a very diverse population where Niko Bellic finally arrives and helps cousin Roman deal with his debt and problems thanks to his experience in the military. Niko is probably one of the most agile and efficient killers among the Grand Theft Auto protagonists, and while playing as a freelance assassin can be very fun for some time. The variety of options Grand Theft Auto 4 presents, including the kidnapping, bank heist, and even getting jobs interviews. The graphics features in each cutscene are a wonder to watch, where you will find that every single animation, scripted line, and expression was carefully worked as to create the seamless masterpiece of a video game. You can also do some funny side activities such as watching the television, listening to radio shows, even using computers to search the Grand Theft Auto 4 web, which is filled with nonsense, amusing chat rooms. The sheer amount of the freedom presented in the Grand Theft Auto 4 makes it most engaging Grand Theft Auto game up to date. Moving up onto the gameplay, the vehicle handling can be a bit difficult regardless of which vehicle you're trying to drive. Now, the online compatibility found in the Grand Theft Auto 4 was also one of the best pros, where you imply the select of the multiplayer option on your cell phone, choose which type of the game you want to host or join, then enter a lobby and wait for the game to start. There are many multiplayer modes that can be customized to your own liking. All in all, this was the best Grand Theft Auto game I have ever played. By the way, you can watch my review for this game as well, links down below in the description, and also why this game deserves a remake or a remaster, also in the description and pinned down comment. Grand Theft Auto games, ever since the release of the Grand Theft Auto 1, have been defined by a long line of success, controversies and amazing storylines, diverse characters and a great gameplay. Although what set apart Grand Theft Auto from other types of the video games was always the freedom aspect. Players can do whatever they want. Do you want to follow the main missions and finish the story as fast as possible? Go ahead, you can do it with no problem. Want to test out every little mechanic and gameplay addition of the new version of the game? You can go ahead and do it. There is no limit to the freedom that Grand Theft Auto allows you, and as we have seen. Thank you so much for watching, like and subscribe, see you guys all later, have a wonderful day.